Carnage is loose once again, but this time they send Scarlet Spider and Agent Venom in after him. Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations of the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Now, this is an older storyline, so this is basically what happened a couple years ago to Carnage, Agent Venom, and Scarlet Spider. Now, if you don't know who Scarlet Spider is, he had his own ongoing series at this time, and after hearing this storyline, if you want to hear what he was doing, maybe we'll replace Venom with him eventually once we end Venom. Anyway, Scarlet Spider is a clone of Peter Parker known as Kane, and when he finally came back in the Spider Island event, he went off to live in Houston, where he became the Spider-Man of Houston. Well, with Carnage out on his own again, and possibly killing hundreds upon thousands of people, they need to stop him. There's only two individuals who are willing to kill, so they're not going to call Spider-Man in this time. Now, when we last left off with Flash Thompson, he fought against Damon Hellstrom, who was trying to build a demon army. As Flash went in to stop him, he came in contact with an ooze that put a demon inside of him. And after managing to stop Damon, Flash received a new mission, and that was to head to Colorado to assist in a prison break that was involving Cletus Kasady. It's only been 3 hours since the prison break, and Flash arrives to investigate what happened. Flash has been through a lot in these past few days, but at the end of the day, he still tells himself that he is a superhero. As Flash leads a group of soldiers into the prison, he thinks about all of the cold-blooded killers here, and there's only one person who would take delight in this. Right now, that man is missing from his cell. But as everyone goes to check on Cletus' cell, there's one thing strange about it. The glass was broken from inside of the cell, meaning he used something to break out. A few hours later, at I-25, the police begin to set up a checkpoint on the interstate to try and see if Cletus Kasady is trying to leave the state. As one cop stops a truck, he begins to notice that this man is Cletus Kasady. The cop pulls out a gun and he tells him not to move, but Cletus tells him that his new friends went through a lot of trouble to break him out, and he doesn't take kindly to threats. They say that they've got big plans for me. Suddenly, the cop's neck is then slit, and an explosion goes off, blowing everyone away. As Cletus drives off, he smiles, telling them, "Told ya." Back at the prison, Flash goes over the surveillance video of the attack, and as he watches, he sees the guards being killed by something, and then he zooms in on a falling guard's back. He then sees a small creature, and Flash says that he needs to call this in. He steps outside to make contact with the lighthouse station to report his findings, and he tells them that he will track this, but he will need help on this. And after that, Flash makes a call to Katie Kernan. He tells her to give him anything that she has related to tiny killers. Seconds later, she sends over an article about something called the Prometheus Pit, and it's being built in Houston, Texas. A few days later, over in Houston, the failed clone experiment of Spider-Man known as Kane, now going by the name of Scarlet Spider, receives a call of a burning building with people trapped inside. He jumps into the building and he finds a body, but it's a person who was killed rather than died from the smoke. And this person's death, while the killer savored in the killing. Kane then sees another man in the corner repeating, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry," over and over again. Kane reaches out to grab the man, and the man screams in fear of him. But regardless, Kane grabs him and he escapes. A little while later, Kane learns that the man that was killed was Nell Fletcher. The man he rescued is Ryan Catola, Nell's son-in-law. The only thing that they were able to get out of Ryan is that someone who looked like the Scarlet Spider did this, and that monster's real target was his wife. Over at the Lyndon B. Johnson Space Station, Katie sits with Dr. Catola regarding the rumors about their exploration of a subatomic universe. Katie mentions that she does know that a few years ago her team decided to start back up the research that Professor Philip Prometheus started regarding it. Dr. Catola tells Katie that whatever she may have heard, it is a highly classified situation, and currently she does not have the time to discuss it. She will call security to escort Katie out. But before she can call security, a voice tells her, "Sorry, they just went off the clock." Soon, Catola and Katie turn to see Cletus skewering the guards, and he jumps at the doctor telling her, "Your husband says hi!" As Carnage leaps through the air, Kane bursts through the window, punching Carnage away from the women. Kane turns to them and tells them to run, but Carnage gets back up, stating, "I guess I'm gonna have to kill you! I'm gonna miss all the jokes!" And Kane jumps in, snapping Carnage's neck, and Carnage says, "Wait, that was different! I like it!" One of Carnage's tendrils shoot out, stabbing Kane, and then using the retractable claws in his hands, Kane cuts the tendrils off. Carnage says that he's starting to think that this guy really isn't Spider-Man, and Kane tells him that he's about to see how much different they are. Suddenly, Kane's body is electrocuted and he falls to the ground, and Carnage tells him, "Meet my little friends!" And Kane looks up to see a group of little tiny people. Carnage leans in to kill Kane, but before he can, he's shot in the back and Katie yells at him to get away. Carnage turns, grabbing Katie and Catola, and he says that he knows the scientist, but who are you? Katie says that she's a reporter, and Carnage tells her, I'm gonna give you something to report on soon. Soon, Carnage and the group of tiny people break into the Prometheus room and they begin to activate the pit. The pit begins to light up, and Carnage tosses Katie in, telling her, you first! One of the tiny people then tells Carnage that it's time to move out. Remember their deal. But before Carnage can jump in, his arm is webbed up, and Kane tells him, I'm not done with you yet. Carnage throws Catola in, stating, well, I'm done here. Tired of all of you people being so angry. Taking away my towns, locking me up, tearing me in half. He jumps into the pit and he begins to fade. And as Kane screams that he's going to kill him, a voice tells him to step away from the pit. Flash Thompson appears, telling Kane to get on the ground and put your hands on your head. Kane jumps on Flash with his claws out, and Flash tells him, you may want to rethink that. Flash goes on, stating, we just need to settle down, but after Kane is yelling, after you! Flash tells him, we saw what Carnage can do. We need to stomp him. Kane steps back, telling Flash, never touch me again or I will kill you. I know all about you, but why is Carnage here? What the crap are those little people? Flash then explains that those people helped Carnage break out of his prison, and then his words trail off. Kane asks what's going on as suddenly Venom takes over, and Flash yells for him, run! The tendrils from Venom begin to wrap around Kane, and Kane begins to punch upwards with his claw through Venom's mouth. Venom tries to attack, but Kane jumps up, punching him down, and he begins beating into him. Kane tells him, stay down, and then Venom's hand reaches up, grabbing Kane's wrist and slamming him into the ground. Slowly, Venom begins to get smaller, and Flash fights to gain control until finally, the suit reverts back to Agent Venom. Kane shouts, you son of a, what was that? But as Kane goes on, Flash tells him to shut up. We have a survivor over there. Catola says that they went through the Prometheus portal. They took the reporter to the Microverse. She goes on stating that it is a universe that is on the subatomic scale, and there's life there. Flash says that they have to go after them, but Kane tells him, F that. Carnage is gone, so good riddance to that. Flash tries to tell him that Carnage will come back, but Kane says, once he crossed into the Microverse, that whole thing stopped being my problem. Meanwhile, in the Microverse, Carnage says that he finally has a world all to himself now, and Katie says that she's going to die, isn't she? Carnage tells her, you can't die yet. You have to be my witness, and you're gonna have to live for now. As the Micro group watches, the female of the group reports back that they managed to bring Carnage into their world, but they're not so sure about this decision. The hologram tells her that Carnage will do his job. Now they better do their job and bring him in. Back in the Macroverse, Catola finishes the repairs on the pit, but before Flash can step in, Kane walks up asking, do you really think that Carnage is gonna come back? And Flash says, if it's one thing that I learned, it's that the bad ones always come back. So Kane asks him, at this point, can it get any worse? I know another idiot who always talks about responsibility. And Flash responds with, yeah, well, I know a great man who does the same. The two step through the portal, and moments later, Flash wakes up alone. He looks around the new world and he notices little fairies flying around, and one of the fairies says, it burns! And Flash notices the symbiote from his boots sticking into the ground. The fairies begin to scream, corruptors! And they begin attacking Flash with sonic screaming. The symbiote begins to rip apart, but as Flash tries to run away, a green beam shoots out, knocking away the fairies. He looks over to see a group of people, and the man leading them says that his name is Arcturus Ron, and they need his help. Elsewhere, Kane begins to wake up stating how he hates everything right about now. And a voice tells him, hate is self-destructive. I can feel the rage inside of you. Kane looks up to see a man and he tells him, thanks, but what happened? Where is this? And most importantly, who the crap are you? The man tells him, I'm called many things, but above all, I am a man and I am preparing. Kane asks for what? And the man says, to die. Kane turns back to see a giant monster about to eat them, and he says, probably should have led with that. Meanwhile, in another area, Carnage looks around a facility called the Body Banks, and he says that he's a little disappointed. He thought there would be, bodies! The female leader explains that this is a flesh factory. They churn out perfect men and women and beasts. And as she continues, Katie tells Carnage that he knows that he's not here as an assassin, right? They brought him to use him as raw material. Carnage jumps down stating, you're pretty smart. Must be those reporter instincts. But I bet you're going to be real surprised when you know what I'm about to do. A little while later, Arcturus welcomes Flash aboard his ship, and he introduces everyone there as the Enigma Force. Flash tries to say his name, but Flare says that he's the Corruptor, so she would rather not know his name. As Marionette and Flare express their concerns of bringing the Corruptor with them, Arcturus says that it's not up to them, the Redeemer wants to see him. Suddenly, the ship's alarms begin to go off, and Arcturus tells everyone that they have the ships from Marquis Radu's armada coming out of warp right in front of them. Battle stations everyone. Back over with Kane, he begins to fight off the giant monster that was about to eat him. He quickly jumps onto its back and he stabs into it, but as he jumps away, the monster grabs him out of the air and he shouts to the hooded man, hey, I could use some help over here. The monster pins Kane down, and just as it's about ready to eat him, Kane grabs its jaws and rips it off. He walks back over to the man and he says, I'm not sure if you noticed or not, but I did save us, so a little thanks. But the man stops him and tells him to sit. he will tend to his wounds. Sure, I'll bite. Who are you? The man says that he's been called many things, a king, a traitor, and some have even called him the Redeemer, but the names are meaningless. All that matters is his purpose. Kane then asks, and that would be? And the man reaches out, touching Kane's head, stating, I am a healer. Back at the Body Bank's plant, Carnage kills off a few people who brought him out, asking if they really thought that they could make an army of Carnage soldiers, because one of him is already enough. But before Carnage can kill another of them, the female leader charges in, stating that she told Marquise that this man was unstable. Carnage jumps onto one and begins ripping him apart, and the female says that he will be dead and they will strip the corruptor off of him and breed him. Carnage walks over, ripping the electronic snakes out of the female's head, and then he walks over to the man that he has pinned along the wall. The man asks what does he want, and Carnage says that he needs a chauffeur. With all of the things happening, he wants to meet with the guy who's pulling the strings. Over at Arcturus' ship, the Enigma Force fends off against the enemies who are now trying to board their ship, and as the group fights, Flash throws one of the men away, and then another one comes running in with a sonic blaster, stripping Venom off of him. Suddenly, everyone hears a scream, and they turn back to see Venom tearing through everything in its path. Elsewhere, Kane and the Redeemer continue traveling as the Redeemer explains that there is a war going on. A giant mobile base starts walking by, and the Redeemer says that is Marquis Radu, and as the Redeemer, he has come here to heal the Marquis. Suddenly, the two hear Carnage's voice telling him, that's really sweet, but I also happen to be looking for the same guy, so the healing plan sounds kinda boring. He leaps off the cliff telling them, be real still, I'm gonna make your deaths as slow and agonizing as humanly possible. And that concludes the first half of the Minimum Carnage crossover event. Now, like I said, if you guys like Scarlet Spider, aka Kane, he was the individual that was in the Spider-Verse event, and he's about to come back in the Clone Conspiracy, and he does have his own unique run, kind of like Venom does. So if you guys want to see what happened to Scarlet Spider back in the past, we can do that when we end Venom. Let me know in the comments down below if you want that, or if you just want me to keep doing these kind of storylines. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time right here.